wiping on amama, on a turban, not topi, on a turban. Okay? The Hanafis, they don't allow it. They say the amama, or be it the topi, the hat, burqa, even gloves, they said you can't wipe over anything else. And they say it's not, the reason, the Shafis and Hanafis, they don't allow it, because if you remember, few weeks back we covered a hadith when we were talking about masa of the head, wiping of the head in wudu. Nabi Sallallahu, he did wudu, he had amama qadariya on his head, do you remember that? And he inserted his fingers on the front of his head, and then to do masa of the head. So that's the hadith which the Hanafis used to say that 1/4 of the head is fard for masah. Yeah, the wiping 1/4 is fard. So that hadith. So they say Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had amama on and he put his fingers in it. So they say there is no masa on amama. What you can do at least the fard amount, and then the rest on amama, but that wouldn't matter because for them the head is a must. But the Hanbalis, they say if the amama was worn in wudu, like khuffain, it was worn, someone put on a turban while he was in wudu, and it's for men only. For men only, who put it on when they were in the state of tahara, they can do masa on amama. Because there is a hadith in Bukhari where one sahabi, his name is Amr bin Umayyah al-Damri, he said, رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يمسح على عمامته وخفيه أو كما قال. He said, I saw Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم doing masah on his amama, on his turban, and his socks. So they say, and there is other hadith as well in this subject, actually from Al-Mughira bin Shu'bah, the same hadith we mentioned, the same Rawi, Sahabi, he has mentioned as well, and there are other hadith. So the Hanbali says, as long as he wore it during wudu, he had wudu when he wore it, then he may do masa over it, like he can do on khuffain. If he does that, like taking off the socks nullifies wudu, then taking off the amama will nullify his wudu. The Hanbali view is that he may do that. The Hanafis and Shafis, they don't allow it. They say according to their understanding is not allowed. And then according to the Hanbali madhab, it is allowed. But if he does that, if he chooses that view and he takes that view, then if he removes that turban, then his wudu is nullified. Make sense? The Malikis, they took a middle approach. They said, if there is harm in taking off the amama, turban, because some turbans are very difficult to take off. If there is a problem in it, then he can do masa on it as long as he wore it in wudu. He put the amama on, turban on while in wudu. They said if it's one of those amamas which is hard work to take off, Malikis, where Hanafis and Shafis don't allow it, Hanbalis do allow it as long as it's worn in wudu. Maliki says if it's difficult to take it off, then he may do. Otherwise, he should do masa of the head. As much as possible for him, he should try to complete the wudu the way it's supposed to be done. What they say, what he should do, even if he can do little bit in his amama, that he do as much as he can on the hair, and the rest he complete on amama. If it's really difficult to take it off, do as much of the head as he can, and the rest he can just complete it on the amama. Because in their madhab, the whole head is fard. Yeah? Because if, let's say, you had this side of the one side of the hair, or the back of the hair was showing, Hanafis will say, okay, if you touch it, 1/4 is done. The Shafis will say, even if you touch your anywhere in the head, your masa is done. But for Hanbalis and Malikis, the whole head must be done. So you can see how their approach is different, because they look at the mas'ala differently. Because in Shafi'i view, you must be able to reach a little bit of your head somewhere. As long as you touch some of the hair, and your masa is done. So why would they allow amama in the first place? So they prefer the hadith where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to prove their point, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam put his head in the amama, and that was sufficient. But where the madahib, where they think the whole head is fard, they said, okay, you may do like Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did, but complete the rest on the turban. And there is ease in for people in following whichever dalil which sounds strong to them. Even though if you look at the some of the hadith, they both use to prove their point. The hadith are all they are authentic hadith. It's your approach to how you look at them. You can't force people to look in a certain way. If you are a scholar and you look at a matter in a certain way, and you are comfortable that the way Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal looks at it, it makes sense to you, then go for it. And if you look at the madhab of Abu Hanifa and you think, okay, that makes sense to me, there is no forcing. Not in my class anyway.